Hey everyone, Nick Engvall here. Before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about some of the people that make the sneaker history community and this podcast possible. It's more important than ever to think about who you give your money to when you're buying clothing to go with your kicks. Our friends at Guilty Goods started their brand with a goal of giving back, especially to the communities that make sneaker culture possible. With every purchase from Guilty Goods, at least 10% of the proceeds are donated to organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters, the Susan G. Komen Foundation, the Movement for Black Lives, and many more. You can save 30% on your order by using the code HISTORY at guiltygoods.us. Again, that's history at guiltygoods.us for 30% off, and you can feel good about your purchase knowing you're supporting a meaningful cause. Sneakers are all about presentation, and if you're like me, displaying your kicks at home or in the office is just as important as when they're on your feet. Sneaker Throne makes sneaker display cases featuring customizable LED lights, drop-side cases to showcase the entire side of the shoe, not just the heel or the toe, the whole shoe. They've also got display cases for trading card collectors and hat collectors. To me, it's the perfect way to display your collection. You can save at least 10% on your Sneaker Throne order by using the code HISTORY at sneakerthrone.com. That's history at sneakerthrone.com. If you're a Patreon supporter or a member of our Discord community, you already know about Kicks with V hot sauce and his small batch, locally sourced hot sauce. V has been one of the biggest supporters of sneaker history and the podcast since the early days. He's currently the defending champion in our community trivia nights competition. Kicks with V hot sauce has been a huge hit with the community. You can save 10% on your order by using the code SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. That's SneakerHistory10 at kickswithvhots.com. Now, you're probably here because you like sneakers, and if you join the Discord, you know our community is about so much more than that. Whether it's the marathon-like community calls, trivia night debates, the in-person meetups, or just sharing our favorite experiences, we found that although we have such different backgrounds, we all have some unexpected shared passions. Not only does the entire community look out for each other when it comes to releases, we're like a support group for life in general. You can join the Discord community for free by heading to the show notes of this episode. After you're done listening to this episode, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Now let's get into today's episode.
Jordan trying to shake off Starks. Oh, what a LeBron James with no regard for human life. 12 seconds. Bryant for the win.
Iverson against Gill, the crowd on its feet. Allen for the win.
To the Sneaker History Podcast.
What up, what up? Welcome to the Sneaker History Podcast. My name's Nick Engvall. I got my guy, Robbie Falke, to talk about some kicks. We got to talk about a lot of new release stuff, a bunch of different brands, and kind of ask the question, what the hell's next in sneakers? Because right now, we're kind of in this dull moment of like, you know, good releases, but sparingly good releases.
Sparingly.
Very few good releases. So what's good, man? How you doing?
The goods are goods, and the bads are just not talked about. That's what's so funny. Like, bad footwear, quote unquote, is just like footwear you want to see on sale and still ultimately buy. But it's like we're just fed a cycle of like, it has to be so cool. It has to be like this, that, when really just like, I like a lot of basic stuff. Like, I just bought another pair of Chuck 70s off of Kith because they were $57. It's like, this weird baby blue Kith. And they weren't Kith, these weird baby blue Chucks, like, for the price, it was right. They're not cool, right? They're not like a cool release, but like, hey, not a bad come up.
I mean, I think that's like, especially talking about brands outside of like, you know, Nike, Jordan, and Yeezy, right? And, you know, Adidas, but like Yeezy specifically. That's the best thing about the Discord is like seeing everybody find all these random things. And like, I love seeing like the different, you know, like, I get texts from people and like sending me pictures of like Sauconys that they're looking for on sale. Cause it's like, they know the shoe either because they're into shoes or they've heard it on the podcast or seen it on our YouTube or whatever. And then now it's like, okay, cool. This one's pretty cool. I just don't want to pay like $90 for it or $110 for it. So when it goes on sale, I'm going to grab it. And then you see kind of that in real life in the Discord and like the, what did you wear today channel where like, it's other than like theme days where we're like going through and picking a topic to go and find out of your collection. It's always such a mix of things. It's like, it's never consistent. That's what I love about it. Cause like you end up seeing stuff and you're like, damn, I would probably pay $40 for that too. I'm going to go get those.
Yeah. The what did you wear today channel is, if I have any time in the day, I pop in and I just go like people's footwear because it's so cool. Just like, it's like walking down the street and just everybody has cool footwear on, but it's in a scrolling format. And It's just a lot of fun. So I think we'll come back to that because that might be an answer from one of us of where the direction of footwear is going. But until then, footwear is still alive. There's a lot of cool stuff happening. Actually, rap legend Raekwon, right, did a really awesome collaboration with Diadora and Foot Locker to where there was actually like a whole, like, hate to sound like an old head, but like a whole like really old school feeling, not just get together, but like an actual like release party, right? It was actually like a community thing happening in LA. Beautiful Diadora, I think is 9N9002s, which I had a pair of myself in the past. Buttery materials. If there's anything about Diadora, they just are quality feeling shoes. That N9002 is beautiful. But just to see like an actual install happen, and it's not like, obviously people are there to get the shoe and celebrate Raekwon, and there's been probably like 3 or 4 Raekwon Diadora collabs throughout the lifetime. But just to see people somewhere to like have fun, listen to music, hang out, versus like a sneaker con, like, and nothing wrong with like cons are great, but just where it's such, there's so many things focused to like buy, and obviously Foot Locker wants you to buy the Diadora with Raekwon. That's why the party's happening. But just smaller events like that, more niche shoes like that, tend to project more of a fun, less competitive environment, right? Because there's enough shoes for everybody. Nobody's trying to like, rush the front door. Yep. It's just like, hey, you like these shoes? You like Raekwon? Come to Foot Locker and buy these. They actually release on Friday the 15th. You can buy them at, I believe, Foot Locker online, but especially you can get them in LA. They're also going to be available. What's the sister store with Foot Locker? I know this answer.
Foot Action Champs?
Foot Champs. Yeah, that's the second one. But just like such a more fun, like kind of like more mom and pop feeling. And I love that.
Me too, man. It's the thing that I miss the most about living in LA or New York, because I'm not necessarily attached to actually getting every pair of shoes the way I used to be, mainly because of space constraints. I love getting shoes and like having them, and especially like you said, the Diadoras. Unless you've had a pair of Diadoras in hand, you can't really understand how good the quality of like their, I don't want to say basic, but like they are very much like standard. Their standard offering is pretty good compared to a lot of the other brands. And I just like being able to go chill and hang out and, music, vibes, connecting, networking, and meeting new people and talking to people. And like, I like absolutely miss that right now from all of it. But that's also kind of the best part about, I don't want to I'm not trying to like plug the Discord so hard, but if you're in the Discord, it's just like, it's a great way to connect with people. I mean, hell, Robbie's been traveling around the country, meeting people in the Discord and going to baseball games and going to eat and all that stuff. And like the Discord is like the closest to that I can get without being in one of those places, I guess is the best way to put it.
But to kind of piggyback off the Diadora thing, like their baseline's fantastic. There's a whole heritage line, which is like the premium stuff. And like very few times do you get like a premium offering and it actually feels double premium. But even just like think about what Adidas typically does, or Nike, or Reebok, the bigger brands that pretty much isn't Diadora, right? They're aiming for experiences, like, On too. Like they put on a great experience, right? You're there to kind of be immersed, and there's like money behind it, and it's great. And there's money behind the Diadora Foot Locker stuff, but it's ultimately still like an OG platform stage with like Foot Locker branding on the bottom. And it's like, that's kind of all you need sometimes, right? Is a community of people, some music, the product, and it's like people can really vibe with stuff like that. And I love huge events. Like those are so much fun. I've had great time at big sneaker events. Like,
and the thing I didn't like, thing about that too, like, is that, like, I didn't mention it, but like the thing that I really, really miss is like when you get that shoe, it's forever important to you because it was about all those people in that community that you were a part of, the conversations you had, and you remember it, and it's so closely tied that it becomes more important. Like we talk about it all the time, right? We get stuff and it's like, whatever, this is cool, but I don't need 3 of this or 5 of this. So like I'm going to get rid of a couple of these colorways. But that also is why I like those events and why I like being a part of communities and connecting with people, because that's a reason to keep the shoe, right? Like, I mean, I'm redoing the room, but you guys have seen the wall behind me if you've watched previous episodes, and like, you know, the first half of that wall is all about shoes I've been a part of or connected to, or people that I appreciate that made something cool that I wanted to support just because I have a personal connection to the people behind the shoe. And that's where I want to go with my collection. Even is like, I just want to keep going to like more and more important things that I can take that story and retell it 10, 20 years from now when somebody asks me what that weird shoe is that they've never seen before. Because ultimately that's what happens, right? We get into these phases where, like, you know, 2015 to 2018, everyone on the planet was wearing Yeezys and Ultra Boosts. 2019 or, you know, 2017 to 2021, everyone on the planet is wearing Dunks and Off-White stuff. You know, like it's like it overshadows all of the other shoes, but there's so many good things happening in these other places that's where like the really cool stuff bubbles up, in my opinion.
So here's an update on America from me as a correspondent, now being on like both coasts and the Midwest. Ultra Boosts are not cool, but Ultra Boosts, and honestly On and Ultra Boosts, I've seen more feet of more differently aged, gendered, background people. So like the Ultra Boosts, yeah, they're no longer cool, but that just means they've now been like assimilated into this like normal footwear life. Like Noah got a pair for his mom when he was out here visiting me in Portland, because like mom's like Ultra Boost, but like I was so shook by this family. It's like, oh, 2 pairs of Ons, the Ultra Boost, and like the son has like a pair of Jordans on. You know, like somebody in the group has like a quote unquote cooler sneaker. I've done this like 8 times in this recording already, but just like not everything has to be so cool. Like I purposely wore a pair of Ultra Boosts in Chicago because I was like, my dogs are going to be barking, and guess what? They did not bark in the Ultra Boost. So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you know, there's cool stuff, there's practical stuff, there's important collecting things. I'm going to kind of use that as a pivot to our next topic on Hebrew Brantley. And personally, I don't collect enough things. I know you're probably very familiar with his statues, Frog Boy, and I
got one.
Yeah, right. You probably have one that's super close to you. Yeah, Frog Boy and Rocket. Like, I've seen those things so many places. I'm a big fan of Bait, so I've done a couple of collabs with Bait. I'm like, oh, I've seen that. I've seen it. But Adidas did a collaboration with him on a forum high and low. Personally, we'll go over which one we like more. But they actually released yesterday on the Confirmed app, July 14th. I actually didn't try on the Confirmed app. I should have. Dang it. I missed it. But this is just another level of just like bringing creatives in where it's like he's much different, right? But this is like having a stash collab or like, and artist collabs can hit so much different, right? Like a Keith Haring, whoever did the Earth Day stuff. I think maybe that was also Keith Haring, the Nike Earth Day art. But just artists and sneakers are just like peanut butter and jelly sometimes. It's like it's a literal canvas. I'm gonna quit talking because you know way more about him than I do. But I just like saw these and I was like, damn, those are 2 really good looking shoes. I like the low top more. What are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the low top. I didn't hit on it. I did actually try on the Confirmed app, but I think the interesting thing about artist collabs, when there's someone like Hebrew Brantley, you know, his artwork is way over. I don't want to say overpriced is not the right term. It's way out of most people's price range, right? Mm-hmm. That's where, you know, like I actually tried to get one of his probably first 4 or 5 prints way back in the day. And I really couldn't justify spending the money for something that I didn't even have space for it on the walls where I was living at the time. Yeah. And I think that's the really interesting thing about whether it's like the toys like you're talking about, or, you know, the vinyl collectibles that Bait does, which are great. Shout out to my buddies at DesignerCon. That's coming up in a few months. They just announced the dates for it later this year in Anaheim. And that, like, I don't know if Hebrew will be there, but he has in the past. I'm sure there's opportunity for him to be there, but it's also like a cool thing for people that are like new on the art scene to get into and do these collaborations, because it's like an entry level point to get to know them and to become a fan of them. You know, for people that actually create physical things, that's a huge struggle, right? Like for us, we're doing the podcast and, you know, we're creating content and throwing it out on social and stuff. But like the podcast is like our kind of gateway to the Discord and becoming a part of the Patreon and all that stuff. For artists, when they're trying to sell, you know, let's say a print of something or you know, some sort of sculpture or something like that, you're talking about potentially thousands of dollars to sell that stuff, and because it's expensive to make. So when they get to partner with a brand like Adidas, that cost kind of goes away for the artist, because the brand takes on a lot of the cost and the artist does like the creative stuff, and, you know, they work together on it and probably figure out a way to split the profits and stuff. But more importantly, Adidas can make, I don't even know how many pairs are made of these forms, but let's say they made 10,000. Let's say they made 5,000 of them, right?
Yeah.
5,000 people getting to wear or see or see Hebrew Brantley's art every day is way more than, you know, the 300 pieces that he might sell in prints for another thing, or the couple hundred pieces that Bait does in a vinyl collectible, and even less of the people that get to actually go into the you know, galleries and see his work, if you're in the right place at the right time to do that. So the collaboration, and he's well established, right? Like he's already had a Jordan collab, already had, you know, multiple crazy opportunities, you know, throughout the kind of sneakers and streetwear. Yeah. But for the new people, that these types of collabs are like, can potentially be rocket ships to do other things, right? Not to be punny with, you know, his artwork, but it's kind of how it works, right? A kid could hop on that partnership and, you know, 5,000 people now know his name because they got his shoes. 50,000 people might know his name because Adidas promoted the collab. And now that kid goes from like making artwork in a, you know, a small town or a suburb of, you know, Chicago. And next thing you know, he's the next Hebrew Brantley. And we're talking about him in a few years doing a whole collab or a whole collection, you know, kind of like the Candace Parker stuff we got to talk about.
That's a really positive spin on it. Just the idea of you get to enjoy somebody's artwork, an artist, Hebrews in this case, his artwork, which is very expensive, on your feet every day, and like look at it. Because like one of my personal like biggest like dope moments is Jew working on projects, who's also had a Nike collab, New York Times. He's a great artist, fantastic. I asked if, like, you know, to get something worked on one time, and he said the price, and I could not afford. Like you said, I probably early on, like I could probably have afforded if I would have like not eaten for a little bit. But now yesterday's price is not today's price. So like Hebrew Brantley, like getting a Hebrew Brantley print or a Hebrew Brantley anything original from him is not going to be the same as the $180 as that forum, or, you know, 150, whatever the forum price is. And now you get to enjoy it. Like, I never thought about the getting to enjoy it part. So that's...
Well, and especially if you think about like you mentioned Keith Haring, right? I mean, a real Keith Haring piece is hundreds of thousands of dollars at very minimum.
Yeah, he was in the museum.
Most people are never going to be able to afford that. Most people would never spend that kind of money. But like, you know, to be able to turn that into a you know, a bear brick or you know, a shoe, or, you know, like, you get to be connected to that artist in a way that just is not even possible with their actual artwork. And I know some people don't like that. Like, it's kind of interesting because some artists are like, no, I'm not going to do any of that. And others, you know, like, I'm a Cause fan and collect Cause stuff. And, you know, at this point, he's gone too far down that path for me, because, you know, the first time around it was cool and it disappeared. You had to know what it was back in the early 2000s and late 90s.
What do you mean? The exclusive, how exclusive his stuff is cool?
Well, so
isn't cool.
So he came up as a graffiti artist, and, you know, kind of just like became mainstream, like kind of, I would say not mainstream. That's not the right way. He came up and became popular kind of in subculture of things in the 90s and 2000s, right? So you kind of had to be paying attention to him. And then next thing you know, like he got to do, a Macy's Day Parade float and kind of disappeared for a while, but he wasn't really making a lot of like collectibles at that time. Then I think in the last, let's say 5 to 10 years or so, he has really gone hard into it. So like he's dropping tons of these vinyl collectible toys. He's dropping, tons of artwork. I mean, posters and prints and, doing a bunch of different gallery shows. And I think it's a beautiful thing. It's just that for me personally, it's kind of like in sneakers, right? Like there's always those moments where you're like, yeah, I love all these people here that are into sneakers. But damn, I remember just being able to line up with 10 or 15 people to grab a pair of shoes that I wanted. And it kind of has that same effect in the art world when somebody goes, as popular as he has. And, I'm not mad at that. I'm stoked for him personally because, look, he's living good. His kids are going to go to college. Grandkids are going to go to college. Like, those are the kind of things that, like, change people's lives in a way that we can't even fathom without being really close to a person that goes through that success. And it's just more on the you get to that point where like things now there's so many counterfeits of his things that I'm sure if you looked on eBay there's probably more than half of them are all fake, right? And just they've kind of made it like less enjoyable for the people that were really passionate about it the first time around. And I think it's very similar to sneakers. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like we're going through all this all these counterfeit fake issues and conversations that are going on with Nike and StockX and all these platforms and stuff now. Just part of the game, I guess.
Shit, that's like similar with like any kind of artist. I'm just thinking like, who is really excited when fucking like Rod Stewart releases new music? Like nobody, right? But it's just like, oh, he made it great. Like you used to be like a small struggling guy, and now like you got really big. Now you're just like, Claus is still definitely in like the upper part of his career. Rod Stewart's at the tail end, but it's just like maybe slow down a bit on the releases there, buddy. To any kind of artist, not just him, but ultimately it comes down to, oh no, he has financial stability as an artist, which is super fucking hard to do. Like, congrats, like big many. That's sarcasm to our listeners. You can't see my face. That's like a huge congrats. Like to make that much money legitimately off your art, like. That's ask any of your friends around you who do art, and if that's easy or hard to do. Exactly,
yeah. And I say all that like if you're listening to this podcast, and you probably know that I'm doing 3 other podcasts during the week. So like, I'm one of those people that is like, do it while you can, make your mark, leave your mark on society, leave something tangible for people to remember you by. So I say all that from a very like. I got my collectible, nerdy graffiti fan glasses on when I say that, because like I'm 100%. I think everybody should be out there. Like, I don't think you should just do it uncontrollably, but when it's calculated and thought out and the stories are told and the hype is built in the right way, it's a great experience for both the person that's doing the art, creating the collaborations and selling the stuff, and the fans that want to be a part of it, just like we were talking about Hebrew Brantley or the event with Raekwon even. Like, that same process and the same things that can make something unattainable because so many people are interested are the things that actually make it great too. And if you have the opportunity to do it, you should do it. Like who cares if you don't sell out in 5 seconds like people expect on the internet? Fuck that shit. Do as much as you can and do as much cool shit as you can so you can look back and be like, yo, I did that shit. Because if you miss and it doesn't work, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to be like, 20 years ago, after you had 20 years of success, that one time I was there and you didn't succeed that time. I mean, there might be people that do that, but that's also the people that are buried in their basement, tweeting on 4chan right now.
Yeah, you're not a very normal person at that point. to switch it up to something a little more light and happy, kind of a reach here. But do you remember in Wayne's World when Garth and Wayne are talking about corporate sponsorship, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to be held down by the man," and it's like eating Doritos and eating various things.
Yeah.
And it cuts to Garth, and Garth's wearing like a full Reebok, head to toe Reebok outfit. I bring up that story to get a color scheme visual because it's Dana Carvey in all white, red, and blue, like the classic Reebok colors. And Reebok has an Omnizone Pump 2 coming out that's pays homage to that Vector red, Vector blue, and white, the classic Reebok colors, right? The British flag looking, you've seen a box before. And I just cannot get the visual of Dana Carvey out of my head. It's like I kind of want to go buy a full Reebok, like nylon kind of puffer suit, and just like lay back with my headband on and chill.
That'd be an
like,
amazing Halloween costume.
It would be an amazing, especially with these shoes. I don't think these were. He was probably wearing like a workout or something in that movie. But I'm just thinking. We've discussed this in the past, and it's like if your 10 most popular shoes are still cool, and they come back in like ebbs and flows. Like right now, like kind of bigger, chunkier shoes kind of haven't gone away, right? I mean, designer has definitely gone more sleek, but for the most part, like bigger, clunkier shoes or ankle protection, as we love to say in the Discord, is alive and well with footwear. So it's like if you drop the Omnizone 2 at the right time, it's not out all the time, right? There's definitely years where it's like saved specifically for collabs or, with the boutique or something. But over the past like 3 years, we've had like all of the OG colorways, I think both of the OG colorways, homage colorways. But I think we're right in that like happy area where it's not too much, not too that Goldilocks level of Omnizone 2 releases. And just personally, even thinking about to how Reebok ads used to be, and they all kind of had that like white, red, and blue like feel to it. So I'm ultimately getting to the point that like storytelling doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be all up in your face. Sometimes a white, red, and blue around July kind of means 4th of July. Sometimes it kind of means your shoe heritage. And in this case, it's coincidentally means Wayne's World and just that white, red, and blue. But like with Allen Iverson and all the shoes, right? It's all the shoes Reebok's ever released, right? Like I feel like most people don't really think of white, red, and blue with them anymore. Like you think of orange with Nike, or you think of just like black and white with Adidas. But yeah, hella cool to see that come back. And it really made me think like, oh, all the old ads that nobody ever likes when I post on Sneaker History, all those like things, just like all the cool old vintage Reebok stuff was really just like wholesome and white, red, and blue.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's also like kind of low-key Team USA colors when there's USA basketball going on. I feel like I think too, like it's kind of so in a recent episode that should be up before this episode, I think Rowett and Mike, it might be a Patreon exclusive. Rowett and Mike talk about Wimbledon, right? And like some of the colors that pop up there, and like that's like a very like Wimbledon kind of vibe too, right? It's super clean, couple of accent colors. It's also just like a formula that works, right? You don't have to get too crazy with it sometimes. It's fun sometimes to go, like Nerf collab, wild colors, loud everything.
No, I've heard this dropped, yeah.
At the same time, it's like, keeping it simple and kind of doing something classic. And I think that colorway is like, I want to say like the Court Victory Pump, Michael Chang shoe was originally that color too. They did like I have a pair of the Reebok Insta Pumps that's inspired by that shoe too. Mm-hmm. It's just like kind of classic, like you said, classic Reebok, wholesome, simple, gets the job done. Usually that colorway looks pretty good, if I'm being honest. So
I mean, the colors are literally called Vector Red, Vector Blue, and Classic Chalk. Vector being the logo of Reebok. What I'm getting to is I feel like, and especially in modern times in 2022 with forever changing social climates. White navy and red is kind of like America, but like white royal and red is kind of like fun, hip. I like America. It's kind of cool sometimes. It also like sucks a lot, but like the fun aspect. I don't know why the navy and like the royal switch up makes such a difference, but it gives like even a more retro-y vibe. I don't know, because this like cameras back there and just couldn't get the saturations right, but like I get more of a hit flavor from this OmniZone pump versus like a straight up I have a pair of them still, like the white, red, and blue, the unreleased questions that Allen Iverson didn't wear in like the 2000 Olympics. Like those, like that navy is like an aggressive America navy, but like the white royal blue and red is more just like, let's have some fun in some OmniZones. I don't know why it feels that way, but it does. Now let's go back into the dart conversation. If you talk about this game.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, right. I mean, so it's a difficult subject amongst. Gosh, it's like a laundry list of difficult subjects in existence right now. But like positive spin, Adidas just had a fantastic All-Star weekend with the WNBA promoting Candace Parker and her new second leg of a collection. There's the Exhibit A they dropped earlier in the year with the shoe. Part 2 is dropping soon. There's her nickname being Ace. Candace is such a great, role model as like, mom, female athlete. There's levels of super coolness to Candace Parker. And you don't even really start to think about how like dominant she's been in her sport. I remember she played for Pat Summitt in Tennessee. I remember her dunking in the All-American game, like watching the All-American game back when people would like watch ESPN2 during the middle of the day in the summertime because you didn't have a car and there was no social media. So he's like, watch TV. I watched every McDonald's All-American game up until there was social media. And she stuck out then. So they had a great event for her. She's, the event was in Chicago. She's from Chicago, drafted by the LA Sparks, played like, 18 something years there from like 08 to 2000. And now she's finishing her career with the Chicago Sky. So like the Chicago Ace coming back home, hometown team, All-Star weekend for the WNBA there. All this great, happy fanfare. Love seeing it. The shoes look great. That's all fantastic. But like most things, even like with our social media feed, right? Even you're scrolling down, you're like, oh, that's funny. That's a cute cat video. Those are some boobs. Those are cool. You're just scrolling. Then it's like, oh, bad news, bad news, bad news. And like you start like realizing like for every like happy party there's just like somebody missing or there's like a somber undertone. And like the big missing piece obviously is, Phoenix Mercury star Brittany Griner. Now 4 months or something like that, still being detained in Russia. An Adidas athlete, perennial WNBA All-Star, an American. I think if you're an Olympian, you're a patriot, right? People just think, patriot, you think of one stupid thing, but like she served her country like more than one way. Like she's awesome. But she's not at All-Star weekend. She's not with her family in Phoenix. She's not like doing anything she wants to be doing right now. And it's like tough to come to grips sometimes where it's just like, all this fun, great things happening. And like, everybody has things in their life where it's just like, that's really bad for you, but like the world still has to move on. But it really sucks when like you see it and like it's the juxtaposition between like happy party than like Brittany Griner, in a Crenshaw t-shirt in cuffs in Russia. And it's like, fuck, that's real life too. And it's just like, it's incredible what we can do and what also can't be done sometimes. And I'm thinking of Brittany. I think we're all thinking of Brittany. You should be thinking of Brittany. But just like the juxtaposition of like two Adidas athletes in the same sport. And it's just like one. And I know Adidas can't like get Brittany Griner out of Russia. That's not what I'm saying. But just like that's a big thing happening over here while happy events happening over here. And just like the gap between this makes it feel like a chasm sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a polarizing situation too, because obviously of the war in Ukraine and Russia, it's like you said, you can look at it, you can see Brittany Griner in a Crenshaw shirt and handcuffs, and it's like, what the fuck, right? Like I get angry about it, and
over a little bit of weed oil in 2022,
right? Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
just the fact
crazy.
that it's happening is like so fucked up,
Mm-hmm.
and yet, if you look at it from like a hey, these countries going to war perspective, it's like, well, fuck. Like, I mean, I just don't even know how these things politically are handled or worked out or any of it. It feels like to me that there's not being enough done, and it's frustrating as a fan to not see her in her element. Like she should be, we should be talking about her right now, and you know, shoes she's wearing and collection and dunking in the All-Star game. You know, like that should be the experience that she deserves, because she's worked her ass off to get to that point. And yet at the same time, you know, like I feel sorry for her friends and family that, you know, I can't fathom what it's like to not know what's going on with your loved one. And, you know, basketball is important. Her stardom and her fans are hugely important, but like throw all that out the window when you really don't even know if your loved one is safe because they're halfway around the planet, you know, stuck in a jail cell.
Safety and livelihood mean more than anything else. And it's like a bummer. We're not going to stay on this too long, but it's just like we have her really being used, right? I think she's just like a pawn at this point. And that's not fair. Obviously, it's not fair to her. She's in probably, when I close my eyes and think of like top 10 places I wouldn't want to be, like an Eastern European, you know, Russian jail is like kind of not, that's on the list of places I don't want to be. She's like living that nightmare. So her family, just that has to say that has to be so hard is like the understatement of the century. So here's this one time to break up some timeline and to say, you know, think about her. What can we? And that's what's even so more powerful. It's like, what can we do? It's like, and it's like, other than just be upset and like,
it's so crazy because we feel helpless as casual fans. I can't fathom what it's like to be anywhere near or a part of her life, and like you've got to feel exponentially helpless. And hopefully, you know, I'll just send positive vibes. That's all I can say about it. It's just such a shitty situation. And, you know, kind of circling back to like the Candace Parker conversation, it's interesting you brought up like the McDonald's All-American stuff, because that was like the height of WNBA basketball for me, because the Monarchs were, I think Candace Parker's 2000.
She got drafted in
4 or 5?
No,
it's earlier than that, right?
No, because she did 4 years at Tennessee. So she did McDonald's All-American game. She went to Tennessee in 2004 to 2008. Played for Pat Summitt,
so 2004. So the Monarchs won 2005, 2006. So like I was spending all day watching those games on ESPN too. It's crazy to think how far my life has come, where I barely get to watch NBA games or WNBA games. But back then, like I was probably watching that McDonald's All-American game live, because that's the same era of like LeBron, right? And I'll watch that one. Carmelo, like, you know,
J.R. Smith.
Yeah, J.R. Smith. Yep. It's just crazy because you don't even, I don't know, man. Never grow up. If you're listening to this, it's already too late.
Time flies. I mean, and the times do change. Things, tastes. We were talking about earlier this episode how Ultra Boost had a wave, and it's just, we alluded to in the top of the episode of like what's next in sneakers. And I wore this hat on purpose, thinking about that conversation, because a good friend of ours, we've had him on the show, you know, Dan Gamache, beautiful Mach Custom Shoes, is actually having a Chicago White Sox release coming up, official with the team. Like not like
awesome.
an homage to the socks. Like no, the logo's on the shoe. It says Southside on the corner, beautiful pinstriping. I don't know if official photos have come out yet, but we were talking and he DM'd me the photo of them. And just like that, I think is the direction of footwear, not just his shoes, not just shoe by, independent brands, but ultimately I think just sneakers as an umbrella. And I go further with this because, like you said, I've been traveling a lot. So like I've been seeing shoes in New York, Chicago, and Portland. I like to just look in like Nordstrom's or Saks Fifth Avenue and see what sneakers they're selling and what's out for sale, what's in concepts, so and so. And my big takeaway is like every sneaker brand, traditional Nike, Adidas, Reebok, all like the heavy, big name, big box brand players for the most part. Those are the stuff that's sitting. But what I see the most mystique about, what I see the most, like day-to-day people trying on in those stores when I'm just like sitting in Saks, like waiting for my feet to cool off because I'm hot and like watching people try on shoes. It's the other sneakers. It's not just On, but like Dan's Mosh Custom stuff is like a good looking trainer that's comfortable and has cool colorways. Not everybody is on the Nike Kool-Aid anymore. There's some disillusioned people now. Somebody at this point in time is disillusioned by some brand, but everybody still has to wear shoes. I personally do not like wearing boots. I'll never put a pair of Doc Martens on. They're not comfortable to me. I'm never going to wear fucking cowboy boots. I'm never going to wear like Chelsea loafers for fun. My option is sneakers, right? So if I don't like a brand, I still need to find a sneaker. And I think that's where Moch Customs really fits in, especially as he gets more collabs with like, socks are fucking huge. That's an MLB team. That's like a big business. It's a huge collab. But, the Louis Vuitton trainers, they're super expensive, right? Like, I looked at them, I held them. I was very impressed with the LV, like it's called the LV trainer. It was like $1,300, $1,100. But I see that shoe in different colorways in downtowns now in 3 different cities more than I see like Jordan 1s almost. Like somebody who has had every Air Jordan 1 might be looking for something else. And like an LV trainer is like right in that alley. It's a sneaker. It's comfortable. It's familiar. It's designer. That's great. But really you could spend like $1,500 on resell shoe X or go to Saks and buy retail shoe X and know it's like you can return it because it's from a store. There's like the backing of a real. I'm not saying Louis V shoes are worth $1,500, $1,200, but like that is a Louis Vuitton shoe. Like you could resell that still for cat coming and meowing. You could sell that thing not for what you paid for it, but $800, $900. You're going to get a good amount of money back. Like it's a quality item. And I feel like I personally don't go to outlets anymore. Any outlet. Like I don't need a discounted Nike. I don't need a discounted Adidas. I don't want those. If I like want to buy something, it has to be unique, has to be different. I still like all those big normal brands. So I wear kind of everything, but it means less. The big collab means less and less to me as something that looks a little unique, is a sneaker, and feels good on my feet. But just like so many people are either like, I only wear Adidas. Especially in Portland, I see this. I only wear Adidas. I only wear Nike. I only wear Nike, and I hate everybody else, like the brands. Or you wear Shoe X. And I think the population of Shoe X, be it On, Diadora, ASIC, Louis Vuitton, Moch Customs, whatever it might be, that segment's getting bigger and bigger as people get less and less shoes off sneakers, or as people take more and more L's. Whatever makes you dislike whatever you're wearing now, I think those practices aren't going away. And that fourth option is just going to keep getting bigger. And I love it. I think this openness is my answer.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think, it kind of reminds me of like we talked about the Jordan 5s a few episodes back, right? and talking about 2006, 2007, when they dropped all those crazy new colorways, and it was all exciting because it was the first time we were seeing colorways that we didn't see on Jordans before. And both of us were kind of like, yeah, these are all great, but hindsight, like, we only really want like one or two of those at most. But like back in the day, we would have both bought probably every one of them and been like, I need to have all of them, right? Because we didn't know that they were going to keep coming. At this point, you know that everything is going to continue to move forward for the most part. You're not going to see retros of, you know, Mosh's socks collab. You know, maybe who knows, 10, 20 years down the road. I don't know. That'd be cool.
Fucking does.
Yeah, if he's doing that, he's doing something right? But it's like, to me, I think that we've like, the kind of swing of sneakers has gone from people like that have been into it being real intentional about like, I don't need all those. I'm only going to grab, you know, the couple colorways that I want of a retro, and I'm going to go diversify a little bit, like you're saying. But then it's also like it's swung so far into like mainstream that we have, you know, like, I don't dislike the, you know, black and white Panda Dunks, but I see them all the time. So like, I would never wear that shoe. I mean, I don't even wear like Jordan retros at this point, hardly at all, because I see so many of them. And that's just because have been super trendy for the last couple of years. And I just don't really, you know, it's rare that I get excited about a new release that I want to wear all the time right out of the box. That's like something that I see elsewhere, right? If it's, you know, a little bit off, a little bit more nuanced, where people would have to really know the collaborator or the sneaker kind of game in order for people to like actually appreciate what I'm wearing. That's kind of what I'm wearing. So that could be anything from like you know, I've gassed up the neighborhood ZX8000 for like 3 years now, or 2 years now. But like, I love that shoe. I bought 4 pair of them. I'll probably buy a couple more because I keep seeing them pop up places for pretty cheap. And I like, the first couple pairs are completely beat. I wear them every day. Kind of like to your point about like just needing a trainer that's comfortable. And like, especially if I'm not going and socializing as much as I used to, I don't wear like the crazy stuff just to wear it. Like, I'll pull it out for like, you know, sharing it in the Discord or community calls and talking about it. But like, I'm just not wearing that stuff as frequently as I used to. And for me, that just becomes like a way to like, you know, kind of be more focused and more intentional about what I'm buying, as opposed to just buying a bunch of stuff. Because, you know, if you gave me a list of 100 shoes that were like $50 and under, in my mind, I could justify buying at least 95 of them.
Yeah, right.
I don't need 95 pairs of shoes right now. But like, that's how my mind works with sneakers, where it's like, man, this is a GR, but it's a great colorway. This is, you know, like such and such collab. And then like, on top of that, I go, oh, this is a part of a set. So there's 3 of them. So then I buy one, and that means I got to go get the other 3 or the other 2. Yeah. And like, I'm trying to like reel that back in a little bit. Not to say that I'm trying to unload my entire collection or anything, but like, I'm just trying to be more intentional about what I'm buying, having those emotional and personal connections to the stuff. And I think we're actually going to see like general consumers doing that more, right? I think we're kind of seeing the Dunk kind of fade a little. We're kind of seeing Jordans fade a little. And I think that forces the brands to be more intentional about the way they market shoes too, right? Look, Nike hasn't had to do anything to sell Dunks for the last 18 months. But like, once that energy goes away, they got to figure out how to like, okay, do we pull this back in, stop making Dunks for a while? Do we only do SB collabs? You know, like, there's a lot of variables when you're working in the brand. And that's part of the fun in working in the footwear industry, for me at least, working with on any project, because there's so many things that could make something cool to a very specific group of people, but you have to make sure you get to those people. And I think we're going to start seeing more of these like really nuanced things, kind of like you said with Mosh and the White Sox, right? It's cool for like sneakerheads that know Dan and like, you know, are fans of what he does, because the shoes are super dope. But like, when you put that in front of White Sox fans, let's say you've got 35, 50, 40,000 people in the stands. Not everybody's going to be willing to spend the money for that shoe to be as a White Sox fan, because they might not care about sneakers. But there will probably be a few thousand that are like super excited about it. It's like, oh, there's a connection and there's a story here and there's a memory here. If I can get this, I'm going to have that memory to carry on and wear with me and talk about with my friends when I'm out drinking after the win, So I hope we're headed in that direction, kind of like what you said, and where I'm saying like it's just more specific and intentional about what you're buying, because it right now it just seems like there's just so much of everything. Like if we tried to do actual release episodes and talk about every single thing that came out, we would do like 3-hour episodes every 3 days. It'd just be impossible.
It'd be, yeah. It wouldn't be fun.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think, man, trying to be more intentional in my last pickups. It's hard to turn the water off. I bought like 4 pairs of shoes in the past like 7 weeks, and it's like, fuck, I don't even like, but they're all, right? Justified due to price, justified due to price. My friend released it, so I had to, and then too good of a price to pass up. It's like 3 of those are just stupid justification. One of them is like friendship. It's Keith's shoe, the Trailblazing Reebok. I bought it because I love him, and like the shoe looks good. The other 3 are just like, well, if I gotta blow money, might as well blow it low. I don't know. Anywho,
exactly. Oh man, Keith, we gotta get Keith on here.
We 100% will. There's a couple people on the docket. Been busy. That people have been busy. Things are coming. Trying to refocus.
Summertime's a hard time to lock people down to do a podcast. Comparatively,
man, it's tough. It is tough. Yeah. But Nick, where could they find you if someone wanted to find you to lock you down? Where are you available?
At Nick Engvall on all the platforms, or in the Discord, also at Nick Engvall.
Beautiful. You can find me at RAHBEE702. And just thank you guys for listening. If you didn't hear the first 9 times, there's a Discord. You're more than welcome to come join. Please leave a review if you're listening to this on a podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. As a YouTube addict, it really helps the algorithm. Not lying. So thank you for being here with us. Have a good day.
Peace.
Hey everyone, this is Nick again. Before you take off, do us a solid and head over to Apple Podcasts to leave us a review. Give us a rating on Spotify and Amazon Music, and make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel because we have even more video content coming soon. Speaking of new content, we have an amazing community of sneaker enthusiasts that hang out in our Sneaker History Discord on a daily basis. While sneakers is a connection point that brought us all together, we've all discovered countless shared passions that we have in common with each other. We recently launched a couple of new podcasts directly from our community. One of them is a Formula One podcast. If you're an F1 fan like me, the Exhaust Notes podcast is your weekly fix of Formula One fun. It's hosted by myself, Rohit Malhotra, and Todd Yates. New episodes drop every Tuesday. I've been wearing fitted hats for years and collecting my favorite teams since I was a little leaguer. It has been awesome to see so many new fans getting into fitteds in recent years. Crown and Stitch is our new talk show about fitted hats with Dexter, Keith, and myself, where we talk about fitted hats, snapbacks, throw in some obscure hats because we all kind of like some funky stuff once in a while, don't we? Copping, collecting, and so much more. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Hit the links in the show notes for this episode to give our new shows a listen, and be on the lookout for more new podcasts dropping soon. Last but not least, tell someone you like their kicks today. You never know how far a simple compliment can take you, and we all know how good it feels to have someone show their appreciation. Thank you all for the support, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.